Guys, please confirm to me. All of you. Confirm to guys. All of you get my voice and screen. Those are attending in online. Yeah. Links. All right, sir. Sure. Light. Don't want light? Lighter fan. No, light. Yeah. Don't require light. Okay. Right, sir. So you are saving Durgasoft money uh, by switching off fans and lights. Fine, sir. Better, my suggestion is what there. Better to have good lighting and better to have the good airflow. That will be good thing. Okay, no issues. Coming to the point, what we are discussing there in the last class now, I think so. Client to server architecture we started there. In client to server architecture, mainly how many components are available? Three components mainly. What are the three components mainly? First one is what there? Client. Second one is what there? Protocol. Third one is what there? Server. Okay. Client already be completed. What is the meaning of this client now? Client is a browser, not a computer. In a client server applications, the main purpose of the client is to send a request to the server side application and to get responses from the server side application. To send a request from client to the server, we have to use a string data at a client's address bar. Here the string data that we are providing in a client's address bar is called URI. What is that? The difference between URI, URN and URL. URI is a string specification or string data provided client's address bar. It can be used to refer a particular server-side component from the client machine. There are two types of URIs. What are the two types of URIs? URN and URL. URN is a string data. It can be used to refer a particular server-side resource through its logical name. In the case of servlet's, logical name is a name that we provided along with the servlet name tag in a web.xml file. Next one is, in the case, okay, fine. URL, it is a string data. It can be used to refer a particular server-side resource through its locator. In the case of servlets, the locator is the value which we provided along with the URL pattern tag in web.xml file. Next example I have given, what is that logical name and what is that URL? That means locator. This is logical name, this is locator. This is exactly called as like what their URN, this is what their URL. But even though these two things are available, but which one is suggestible in the applications? No, almost all the servers are supporting URL only. No server is supporting what their URN. Leave this. Syntax for URL is what they protocol name, server IP address, server port number, application name, resource name, question mark, key 1 is equal to value 1 and key 2 is equal to value 2 and so on. Examples here are given, two examples. Alright, sir. Now here, when we are able to use local host here, now tell me here, the point here I'm telling to you, in place of server IP address, when we are able to use local host now, if the server software is available at the same client, machine, then we are able to use local host in place of localhost, in place of server IP address. That we can understand anyway. Okay, fine. Next one is after completion of this particular point here. Next one is what is the difference between IP address and port number? That points already we understood there in the last class. No, IP address is an unique identity for each and every device or mission over the network. It will be provided by the network manager at the time of network configurations. Port number is an unique identity to each and every process being executed in a single mission. In general, when we install multiple server softwares in a single server mission, we are able to recognize or identify each and every server on the basis of the server port numbers only. There are given some examples to you. Tomcat 8.8080, WebLogic 7001, Wildfly, of course 8080 that we have to modify. Please recognize one point here. One point here what we have to understand. In a single computer, no more than one server is going to have the same port number. Port crashing is coming there. So where we are able to get some exceptions, binding exception colon, port number is already used by some other process. Like this, we are able to get some message now. More than one server should not have the same port number. Definitely no. Of course, if we are getting by default, if we are getting same port number, then manually we have to change that port number in our server configurations. Best example, if I install Tomcat and Wildfly at a time in my system there, both are going to have the same 8080 port number. But I'm going to keep like what there, for both of them I'm going to change. Why? Because 8080 port number is used by Oracle. Again internally for Oracle documentation, port number is what there 8080. It may take that 8080 as a Oracle documentation there actually. So even there also problem will come there. That's why in the servers wherever we are having 8080 port number, there we are going to change that port number manually. But how we are going to change that port numbers manually, I will explain the topic there when we are going to install server softwares in our system. I'm able to show almost all. But WebLogic I need to check no, but almost all the servers I'm going to show there completely. By that we are able to get some awareness. Okay, leave this point here. Next one is what is query string and what is its requirement in web applications. Query string is a collection of name value pairs with the AND operator in the URL. It can be used to provide some input data to the server side resource in order to execute server side resource in order to execute server side resource. Right, so now here we provided like what there, some example here I give you no, HTTP colon slashes localhost colon 8080 login app login question mark, uname is equal to ABC and upwd is equal to ABC123 that we provided, where question mark uname is equal to ABC and upwd is equal to ABC123 is a query string. Alright sir, if you want to take another example, there we can identify it clearly now. So for example, if you want to go for another example here, what I am telling to you, HTTP colon slashes localhost colon, say for example 8080 registration app for example, where reg is a resource name there, f name first name is equal to AAA and l name last name is equal to BBP and ADDR is equal to Hyderabad. If we take this now, out of all these things, now here what is that query string here? If we observe this, here the point is very clear, understand it now. Now where exactly this part question mark including question mark I'm telling there, including question mark is a query string. That question mark is a separator between URL and query string, of course, but including question mark we used to say as what there query string, you know. Then after that, after completion of this, we started like what there, what topic here we started there, protocol is a topic here we started. What is the meaning of protocol? All of you observe carefully. What is the meaning of protocol? Protocol is a set of rules and regulations to carry the data from one machine to another machine over the network. Yesterday I given some examples to you regarding this protocol. Okay, what are the various protocols are available there in outside? No, TCP, IP, HTTP, FTP, UDP, and so on and so on and so on. In client server applications, in a client server application, the main intention of the protocol is to carry request data from client to server and to carry response data from server to client. In web application, which protocol is required and why is it required? All right. Now in web applications, HTTP protocol is very much suitable. Why? Because there three reasons are available. Understand it now. So that reasons are important here. Now try to understand it clearly. Before going to understand this total point here, I'm telling to you, in web applications, we need a protocol. We need a protocol. It must be number one. It must be number one, connectionless. It must be connectionless protocol. Number two, it must be stateless protocol. It must be a compatible protocol. It must be a compatible protocol for hypertext data. It must be a compatible protocol for hypertext data. That's it. If any protocol is having these qualities, automatically that protocol is suitable in our web applications. That's very clear information. Out of all the protocols in outside, HTTP protocol is following these three principles properly, effectively. So HTTP protocol is the right protocol for our web applications. At least we need to understand what is the meaning of each and every step here. What exactly the meaning of each and every point here, we have to understand clearly. First one is what there, connectionless protocol. What is the meaning of connectionless protocol? What we are understanding there clearly. Right, sir. Understand it clearly. Connectionless protocol. Connectionless protocol is a protocol. It must not have physical connections. It must have logical connections. Understand it clearly now. Simple example. Understand this point here. In our web environment, web applications, where server is available and where client is available, do you think about it, any physical wiring is going to be happen in between these two? No? Is there any physical connection between client and server here? No, definitely we require what are logical connections. See how two mobiles are communicating. How two mobiles are coming. Of course, the tower and all the things are, that's okay. They're totally logical connections or not, virtual connections or not. There no physical connection is going to be happen here. All of you are getting it or not? So that's the meaning of like what there connectionless protocol. That protocol should support for virtual connections, not physical connections. That's the point here we have to understand clearly. It must have a logical connection. It must not have a physical connection. Right, sir. Now this is about like what is the connectionless protocol. Next one is stateless protocol. What is this stateless protocol? What is the meaning of the stateless protocol? Simple example to all of you, try to understand it clearly. I think all of you might be aware about movies. Very good movies, right? I think what is today I think one movie was released, Pawan Kalyan movie, right? Any movie? Bro, what is the status of it? Yeah, average. As per my feedback also might be average, right? It's okay, good. Mixed talk. All right, sir. I think, are you aware about a movie, somewhat, a day, might be some years back, Gajini movie, in maybe in Hindi, American, in a Tamil, actually it's a Tamil native, right? Tamil based movie. Surya is a hero in the Tamil, right? Yes, sir, am I right or not? Are you aware about it? So both the actors are getting very good fame from that movie. In Tamil, might be his range is changed totally. American also be getting very good reputation by having that movie. Right, sir, Gajini movie. If we observe in that movie, that hero had a problem. Am I right? He suffered from a disease. Can you tell me what is the disease there? Short-term memory loss. Short-term memory loss. What's the meaning of it? No. A shorter memory. What's the meaning of it? No, every 15 minutes of time his memory is refreshed. Able to remember the content up to 15 minutes of time only. Once 15 minutes is crossed there, able to lose his lost his memories now. Because of that reason only that hero is able to take like what are their photos. Through photos only able to identify the members. But I have a doubt actually. How we remember to take the photos now if he lost his mind? Huh? Maybe. Really, then he lost everything, right? But how he able to remember it to take the photos or to remember these members in the next attempt? No. Okay, fine. Movies. Right, sir. Coming to the point. So what happened there? What is going to be happen there? Every 15 minutes of time, his memory is lost. He unable to remember the things now. That's why he able to go for some kind of alternatives. That's okay, fine. Finally, that movie is good. Anyway, then this kind of questions are stupid questions. It is an entertainment only, right? I'm telling there, entertainment only. Just go to that movie, watch that movie, having fun or not, coming outside. That's it. No need to have. See, I don't know why some people are might be thinking too much about movies. They're finding some kind of logics or some kind of things. No? See, Arya, then Bahubali is a trendsetter, right? Still, if you open internet, no, people are searching for the mistakes in Bahubali. Who required that? Triple R is an Oscar nominated, right? Oscar might be winner, right? Still, there also people are searching for the logics. No, yeah, not required. It's an entertainment, right? Whatever it may be, whether it's giving entertainment or not. At the end of the day, they got money. Total money they got there. Very good money they got there, right? We will take care about it. We will think about it. Come to the point here. So the hero mindset in that Gajini movie is a stateless. The status of that hero mind is what there? It's a stateless, not a stateful. If you're able to remember everything, that is stateful. We are all stateful. But that hero is what there? Stateless. What's the meaning of stateless? No, unable to remember the last 15 minutes content. Unable to remember the previous 15 minutes content. Able to remember only present 15 minutes content. Am I right or not? Similarly, stateless protocol is a protocol. Listen carefully. Stateless protocol is a protocol. It is able to remember. It is able to remember the present request data. It is able to remember the present request data. Not able to remember. Not able to remember the previous request data. Not able to remember what their previous request data. So because of that reason, we required a protocol. That protocol is like what their stateless protocol. You may ask one question to me, sir, if you remember that, if you remember the previous states, no, then it will be an advantage, no. But why we are taking stateless protocol here? If the protocol is able to remember the previous request, no, then it will be an advantage. But here we have taken stateless protocol. Why we are taking the stateless protocol? You may get this type of question now. I'm giving answer to you. Now try to understand it clearly. Okay, for example, if it is a stateful protocol, for example, we have taken in web applications now, it has to remember everything or not? How much data that protocol is able to manage? Do you think about it? How much data is transferring in the web in a minute of time? How much data is transferring in a minute of time? How much data is transferring in the web? Do you aware about it? No. Say for example, if you take Facebook kind of application there, how much data is transferring in every minute there? Are getting it now? Then how much that protocol is able to remember the data? At one particular point of time, it will come to the saturation state. Once if we cross that saturation state now, automatically data is going to be lost or not? So because of that reason, always we are thinking about it, what they, it should not manage the client's previous request data. Always it has to manage what their client's present request data. That type of protocol only we require. If we take that stateless protocol, at server side, we will think about it, how to manage our previous request data. We'll use some other mechanisms to manage previous request data at server side there. There we will go for session tracking mechanisms. There we will use what their session tracking mechanisms. That I will discuss it later on. Is an important topic in servlets, no session tracking mechanisms. We are going to understand effectively that content here. But time being, we have to understand what is the meaning of like what their stateless protocol. Stateless protocol is a protocol. It is able to remember the present request data. It's able to remember only the present request data. It's unable to, not able to remember the previous request data. This type of protocol is called as like what there? Stateless protocol. Clear. Then what next one here? A compatible protocol for hypertext. In general, listen carefully. In general, in web applications, the web applications, data will be transferred. Data will be transferred. Data will be transferred from client to server along with request, and from server to client along with response, and from server to client along with response in the form of hypertext, data, in the form of what there? Hypertext data. So to carry hypertext data, between client and server, we need a compatible protocol. In web applications. That's the meaning of this compatible protocol. Only hypertext data only we are going to carry from client to server and from server to client. Understand my point here? For that purpose, we require a compatible protocol in web applications. Right, sir. Now here I'm going to give the conclusion. Try to understand it clearly. Among all the protocols, HTTP protocol is able to follow all the above rules and regulations, all the above factors, all the above principles, or whatever it may be, all the above factors. So HTTP protocol is a suitable protocol for the web applications. HTTP protocol is a suitable protocol for the web applications. That's it. Now this is what exactly the requirement of the HTTP protocol. This is damn sure question. If the interviewer is a perfect interviewer, definitely has to ask this basic question. Which protocol you are going to use in our web applications, and which protocol is suitable and why it is suitable? This question he has to ask. Your answer is very clear. HTTP protocol is suitable. Why HTTP protocol is required in our web applications now? Why? Because it's a specific nature. What is the specific nature there? It is a connectionless, it is a stateless, and it is a compatible protocol to carry hypertext data between client and server. So because of that reason, we are going to use what there? HTTP protocol. Okay, fine. This is in general. But if you have any specific requirement, we are going to deal with the file systems completely in the request and response now. Then definitely we have to go with what there? FTP protocol, file transfer protocol, like this. Depending on situation, we are going to use that one. But in the normal web applications, HTTP protocol is sufficient. That HTTP protocol is providing very good services for our applications. Okay, fine, good. That interview question and answer here we completed. Next one is what there after this. All of you observe carefully. This question is also important. How HTTP protocol is able to manage its stateless nature. How HTTP protocol is able to manage its stateless nature. How is that HTTP protocol is able to manage its stateless nature? Right, sir. Now here we have to understand the content clearly. Observe carefully. How is the HTTP protocol is able to manage its stateless nature? Okay, sir. Now see this one. All of you observe carefully. If you want to Answer for this, I want to give some diagrammatic representation. Try to understand this diagrammatic representation, all of you know. Right, sir. The next 10 minutes of time, topic is very, very important. Everybody must put concentration. 10 minutes of time. Why? Because whatever the explanation I'm going to provide now, that explanation is required in the future. Right? Now try to understand the content. Some basics are going to be covered here. Try to understand it now. For example, this is client. Okay. This is server mission, where server software and all, whatever it may be. This is client and this is like what there server. Observe carefully. In between client and server, we are able to have a protocol. In between client and server, we are able to have what there protocol. Okay. In between client and server, we are able to have what there protocol. That's it. Now observe carefully. For example, at a client, what we are having there, browser is available. This is browser at a client. There we are going to provide URL. URL we are going to provide. Then after this, when we submit a request from client mission to the server mission, first request will come to the protocol. Is it? Am I right or not? First request will come to what there? A protocol. Now, request in the sense, can you provide the information in the request? No, any model, any example request? No, HTTP://. Say for example, 122.67.98.57, something else. What is this? No, come on. What is this number? Server IP address colon 1010, port number slash application name slash resource name. That's enough. This is the URL. When we submit this request to the server, protocol will take this request. Protocol will take server IP address and a server port number from the URL what we provided. Protocol will take server IP address and a server port number what we provided in the URL. Then immediately protocol will establish a virtual socket connection between client and server. On the basis of the server IP address and port number, protocol is able to establish a virtual socket connection between client and server. Okay. If connection is successful, after establish the connection successfully, immediately protocol will create a request format. Protocol will create what format here? A request format. This request format contains two parts. Request format contains how many parts? Two parts. What are the two parts in a request format? No. First one is header part and the second one is body part. What a header part is able to manage and what body part is able to manage. Header part is able to manage the client's information, client browser's data, client metadata. What is the name of the client? What is the default client in our client machine? Default browser in the client machine. What is the name of it? Next one is what encoding mechanisms are supported by this browser? What zipping formats are supported by this browser? What is the locale which is available in the browser? Every browser is maintaining language and country. Every browser has some internet options there. In that internet options, language and country specifications available. There is nothing but local to the browser. Got it or not? So like this, some details about the client is maintained in the header part of the request format. Clear? After that, what body part is able to manage, is able to maintain the data, whatever the data that was provided by the user on client browser. Say for example, if you have any HTML form, login form is there, username and password, two fields are available, user has entered that username and password data, that data is called as request parameters data. User provided data in the client is called as what? There request parameters data. That request parameters data will be provided in the body part. Sir, all of you are getting it or not? Come again. When I submit request from client to the server, protocol will take that request. Protocol will establish a virtual socket connection between client and server on the basis of the server IP address and port number which we provide in the URL. After that, protocol will prepare a request format. Request format contains how many parts? No, two parts. What are the two parts of this request format here? Header part and a body part. What is this header part actually? It's able to manage client's metadata, like name of the client. What is the default name of this client in our client mission? After completion of this, what is the local information about this client? What formats are supported by this client, like zipping formats, encoding mechanisms, like this, different content here. All these details are maintained in the form of header part. After that, in the body part, request parameters data will be provided. What are these request parameters data? Request parameters data is the data which is provided by the client, which is provided by the user at client forms, which is provided by the users on the client browser. Say for example, if it is a registration form, first name, last name, address, all the details we are going to provide now, the details are going to be available in the client address bar, in the client form, user form. That data is nothing but what? There parameters data. That parameters data will be maintained inside what? There request format. Finally, request format is created. When request format is created, automatically protocol will carry this request format to the server. Protocol will carry that request format to the server. Okay, this is nothing but request. This is called as like further request. When request format is coming to the server along with the request, no, server will take that request data. Server will take that request data. Server side application will identify, server will identify a particular resource at server mission. That resource is having some code, maybe servlet or JSP or whatever it may be, some code is available. That code will be executed. When that code is executed, automatically some response will be generated to the client. When response is generated to the client, no, automatically the response will be given to the protocol. The response is provided to like what? Their protocol. This is a protocol. Now what this protocol is able to do now? When response is coming to the protocol, what protocol is able to do? Actually, server has to distribute or has to submit that response to the client. Submitting response to the client, in essence, protocol must take that response. Protocol has to carry that response. Then what protocol is able to carry there? What it is able to carry? If you observe this point, no, understand it clearly. Protocol is able to prepare one more format here at the server side. Now this format is called as response format. Previously request format, now this time it is what? There response format. Response format is created. Inside this response format, how many parts are available? There we can understand header part is available, and other one is like what there body part is available. Header part and body part. Got it or not? Header part and body part. When this response format is available, where header part and body part, what a header part is able to manage the data. Header part is able to manage the response metadata, data about the response. What type of response is generated? How much length of the response is generated? Understand my point, you know? All this type of details are maintained inside what their header part of the response format. And body part contains that actual dynamic response. Actual dynamic response which is generated from server machine, that is maintained through what their body part. In the body part, that actual dynamic response will be generated. Is it all of you get my point or not? So when server is executing server side resource, response will be generated. That response will be given to the protocol. Now that protocol is able to prepare response format. Response format contains both the header part and as well as what their body part. Header part is able to manage response metadata, length of the response and type of the response and all the details. And body part is able to manage the actual dynamic response. When this response format is created successfully, immediately what protocol is able to do now, immediately what protocol is able to do, protocol is able to carry the total response back to the respective client. At a client mission, response will be taken from body, then it able to display the required response directly at a client browser. There we are able to get like what their response. Here we are able to get like what the response here we are able to get. Whenever we are getting response there, of course might be user can watch that response and user can satisfy about the respective response. That's it. This is what exactly the work is going to be happen. But listen carefully. Whenever the response is reached to the respective client, when client has taken response from the protocol, immediately protocol will terminate the virtual socket connection which it was established previously at the time of sending request. When response is reached to the respective client, no, automatically protocol will terminate the virtual socket connection which we established in between client and server previously. That means that connection is able to serve only one request. Once the response is created there, automatically that connection is going to be terminated. That's a virtual socket connection only. Virtual connection only. Yes, sir. All of you are getting it or not? Fine. This is in general topic. Now here, I'm giving one conclusion. What is that conclusion now? Protocol is able to remember the present requested data until the connection is existed. Once the connection is terminated, protocol may lose the current requested data. As all of you get my point or not? How much the protocol is able to manage the present request data? How long that protocol is able to remember the present request data? Protocol is able to remember the present request data. How long that connection is existed? Once the connection is terminated, present request data is not going to be available. Yes, sir. All of you get my point or not? Okay, fine. Now listen carefully. My protocol is stateless protocol. Okay, what is the meaning of the stateless protocol? I'm talking now. Try to understand it clearly. Okay, sir. First request we submitted. Okay, response is coming. Connection is terminated. That's fine. Now second requests are submitted from the same client or from the different client. That doesn't matter. Second requests are submitted. The moment when we second request is submitted, is it possible for us to get previous request data? At the time of processing second request, is it possible to get previous request data? Not possible. Not possible to manage that previous request data at the time of processing later request or not? Come on. Is it possible to get previous request data? No, not possible to get previous request data. Understand my point here now? So whenever it is not possible to manage that previous request data, then the protocol is called as what protocol? No. Then this protocol is called as what protocol here? No. Stateless protocol. This protocol is like what there? Stateless protocol. Yes, sir. All of you get my point or not? So this is the meaning of like what there stateless protocol. But here itself I'm giving one conclusion. Try to understand it clearly. For example, I have an application like what there online shopping application. Observe carefully. Online shopping application is available with me. In that online shopping application, my intention, my requirement is what? First of all, I selected one item. That item is what they say. For example, I selected some shirt, linen shirt. I selected. Its cost is, for example, 2000. Selected it. Okay. I clicked on add to cart button. The shirt is added. Item one is added. That means one request is coming to the cart servlet. Along with that one request, that shirt details are sent to the respective server side. Okay, good. Second time, I selected a book. For example, a book I selected. Say, for example, some Java related book I selected. Added to cart. Again, I given that what there added to cart button. Along with second request, that the book is submitted to the server side. Up to now, tell me how many requests are submitted from client? No, two requests. What are the two requests? No, one is a shirt, another one is what there book. Next third time, I selected for what there shoes. For example, Sketchers. I selected the shoes. There's a cost maybe 7,000. For example, I selected it. Okay. Now get this is a third request now. Okay, I satisfied about my products now. I want to go for billing. I want to go for what there? Check in, check out. Like here. Now process to pay. Got my point or not? Now tell me overall how many requests I submitted from client to server? Three requests are submitted. Along with three requests, three different data submitted or not? Along with three requests, three different data submitted or not? Now tell me when I go with the bill, when I go for billing point there, I have to get my bill for how many products now? Come on, I have to get bill for how many products now? For all three products, I need to get bill or not? That is the actual application requirement. Who has selected these three items now? Different people or a single person? Single person has selected. As part of his shopping, single person has selected three items now. Then how that application has to generate the bill now? Is it generating bill individually for each and every product? No, for all the products for a single user, that bill has to be generated or not? Answer my point here. So bill must be generated for three products. If you want to generate for bill for three products now, at the end of the third request, you must remember previous two request data or not? At the end of the third request processing, that means at the end of the third item, first two request items, first two products details must be managed or not? But our protocol is what protocol? Stateless protocol. What is the nature of the stateless protocol? What is the nature of the stateless protocol? It's unable to remember the previous request data. But in my online shopping application, at the end of the last product, we have to get bill for all the items now. So we have to remember all the items details or not. But how it is possible to manage all the previous items details now as we submitted them along with the multiple requests? How it is possible to get all these details now? But our protocol is a stateless protocol, unable to remember previous request data. But as per the application requirement, we have to manage the client's previous request data at the time of processing later request. Then how it is possible there? Exactly in this particular situation. Observe carefully. Exactly in this particular situation, we are going to use a separate mechanisms at server side. A set of mechanisms we are going to use separately at server side. That set of server side mechanisms are called as session tracking mechanisms. As an important topic in servlets. A set of mechanisms we are going to use at server side there to manage client's previous request data at the time of processing later request. Then the set of server side mechanisms are called as what there? Session tracking mechanisms. That's it. Now that's the meaning of like what there? Session tracking mechanisms, what you are having. That's the requirement of it. The session tracking mechanisms are provided because of the stateless protocol only. If it is a stateful protocol, session tracking mechanisms are not required. Okay, then what is session? How we are going to track these sessions? What exactly the session tracking mechanisms in a servlets know? That we are going to understand maybe part of the servlets in the future. But at present, we are understanding about like what the stateless protocol. With respect to the stateless protocol only, we are discussing about all these points clearly. Once again, I'm going to explain the content here. Now try to understand the content clearly. All of you observe carefully. Once again, I'm going to explain to you. Try to recognize this clearly now. First of all, tell me here, what is the point here I'm telling to you? First of all, we have taken client and a server and a protocol we have taken initially. So first of all, what is our question now? What is our question actually? How HTTP protocol is able to manage its a stateless nature. Every time we are able to say HTTP protocol is a stateless protocol. Obviously, we require stateless protocols only for our web applications. But the point is how HTTP protocol is a stateless protocol. That's the question. All right. If you want to answer for this question, what's the point here I'm telling to you? Try to recognize this. First of all, when we submit request from client to the server, protocol will take that request. Then protocol is able to identify server IP address and port number what we specified in the URL. Providing request in the sense we have to provide that entire URL at the address bar. There you might be specified what their server IP address and server port number. So protocol will take that server IP address and port number. Protocol will establish a virtual socket connection between client and server on the basis of the server IP address and port number. After getting that connection, immediately protocol will prepare a request format, a format called as request format. Inside this request format, only two parts are available. What are the two parts here? First one is a header part, and second one is what their body part is available. What a header part is able to manage, what body part is able to manage. Header part is able to manage what there is able to manage metadata about our client. What is that metadata about our client? No, name of the client. Next one is what zipping formats are supported by this client, what encoding mechanisms are supported by this client, client to local. All these details are maintained inside what their header part. Then what body part is able to manage actually? Body part is able to manage request parameters data. What is that request parameters data? User entered the data at a client might be forms, user forms. In the client browser, user may enter some data. If it is a login page, no. Username, password. If it is a registration page, no. First name, last name, address, email ID, and mobile number. These details are going to be provided by the user on our client form, user forms, no. That user provided data at a client browser is called as what their parameters data. That parameters data will be stored inside what their request format. Then immediately protocol will carry this request format to what their server mission. Now at server mission, server is able to take that request format. Server is able to take like what the request format, and it is able to identify the server side resource. It will execute the server side resource. When it is executing server side resource, some response will be generated. That response will be given back to what their protocol. Now what protocol is able to do? No, protocol is able to carry that response to the respective client. But how it is able to carry that response to the respective client? No, by preparing a separate format called as response format. Again, in the response format, how many parts are available? Two parts are available. What are the two parts inside the response format? No, header part, and other one is what their body part. What is this header part and what is this body part actually? Header part is able to manage metadata of the response header. Sorry, metadata of the response. What exactly the meaning of metadata of the response here? No, like a type of the response, length of the response, and some other details are available here. After completion of this body part, what body part is able to manage? Body part is able to manage the exact actual response that is generated by the server side resource. When response format is created, protocol is able to carry that response format to the respective client. Now client is able to get response from the response format. It is able to display that response to the user. Okay, user is satisfied. When response is reached to the respective client now, immediately protocol will terminate the virtual socket connection which we established between the client and server. Now here the conclusion is what? Protocol is able to manage the present request data, how long the connection is available. Once the connection is lost, once the connection is terminated, protocol is unable to remember the present request data. It is able to remove present request data from its memory. But in this particular situation, if we submit second request from client to the server, then server is able to get only present request data again. It is unable to get previous request data. Why? Because our protocol is what their stateless protocol. Because of that reason, we are unable to manage client's previous request data at the time of processing later request. So because of that reason, the protocol is what their stateless protocol here we are understanding. In this way, HTTP protocol is able to manage its stateless nature. But here I've given the conclusion. What is that conclusion here I've given there? That conclusion would be Our protocol is stateless protocol is okay, good, nice. But our application requirements are different. What are the different application requirements? No. Nowadays, in every web application, not only in the online shopping application, e-business application, banking applications, any of these applications, whatever it may be, all the applications, in all the applications, no, it's mandatory to remember previous request data at the time of processing later request. Best example I've given, online shopping. In the form of three requests, three items I want to take. At the end of the third item, I want to go for the bill. Bill has to be generated for all the three items. Means that bill has to be generated for all the three items, in the sense we have to remember that client's previous request data at the time of processing later request. So there definitely we have to maintain client's previous request data at the time of processing later request. So for that we need to go for some mechanisms explicitly at server side. Why? Because we are not going to be depending on what their protocol. Why? Because our protocol is what their stateless protocol. So we must use some mechanisms explicitly. What mechanisms we are going to use explicitly at server side? No, the server side mechanisms are called as what there? Session tracking mechanisms. That is exactly the total content here. We can understand about this particular point here. Yes, sir. All of you are getting it or not? Right. So now this is about like what there session tracking mechanisms content here we are understanding. Just 2 minutes of time. Let me complete the document also for this so that we are able to get some awareness. 1 minute. Right, sir. Now document I've given. Now just 2 minutes of time. Then what I'm telling there, even try to verify the content here. All right. The point is what there, when we submit a request from client to server, protocol will take request and protocol will perform. Protocol will take request and protocol will perform the following actions. What actions that protocol is able to perform here? Right, sir. Number one, protocol will establish connection, will establish a virtual socket connection between client and server on the basis of server IP address and server port number, which we provided in the URL. This is point number one. Then what next one can observe carefully. Point number two is what there. Protocol will create a request format with a header part and a body part, where the header part is able to manage the data like client's metadata. Like client's metadata is able to manage the client's metadata. Like what about this client's metadata? Client name. Then apart from this, what next one can know? Local details. Client's local details. Next one is what there? Supported encoding mechanisms. And so on. So many details here. And a body part is able to manage the request parameters, like request parameters, where the request parameters are the data which is provided by the users, in the client browser. Whatever the data that user has provided here in the client browser, the data is going to be provided here. That's it. Now this is exactly the meaning of like what they're preparing this. Okay, fine. Tell me, sir, what next one here? After completion of this one, protocol has to carry the entire request format to the server. All right, sir. Now, protocol will carry a request format to the server. Okay. Then what next one here? After completion of this one, at server side, what happened there? At server machine, a request will be received, comma, server will execute the requested resource, and server will generate a response to the client, where protocol will take the response, and protocol will perform actions. Protocol will perform the following actions. All right, sir. Protocol will perform the following actions. Understand, sir? Important one. Just one time only we are going to understand all the points. No. After that, we are going to utilize the same content. This I am going to use almost 5 to 6 times in the future. This entire analysis I am going to use 5 to 6 times in the future. That's why here itself we have to remember this. Then what is the first one here? Protocol will create what format here? No, a response format. Response format with what parts here? No, response format with header part and body part. Header part and body part. Where header part is able to manage the response metadata like length of the response, type of the response, and so on. And body part is able to manage the actual response. That's okay now. This is format here. Next one is after completion of this, then what next one here? Second one is what there? Protocol will carry that response format to the client. Protocol will carry a response format to the client. Okay, fine. Now what client is able to do there? No. All right, client is able to get that response here. Then when client is getting that response now, immediately what protocol will do? When a client receiving, receiving response, when client received response, when client receiving response from server, when client is receiving response from server, receiving response from server, protocol will terminate the connection between client and server. Protocol will terminate the connection between client and server. That's the point here we have to understand. Protocol will terminate the connection between client and server. Now the point is clear. Then after this, what next one here? Here the point now. When now get the node type of point is what there? In the above context, observe carefully. In the above context, all of you observe careful. In the above context, protocol is able to manage the present request data, up to the connection's existency. Once the connection is terminated, the protocol, once the connection is terminated, the protocol will remove present request data from its memory. So protocol is unable to provide present request data to the next request. This nature is called overall. This nature is called as what there? Stateless nature. This nature is called as what there? Stateless nature. That's enough. This is the total requirement here, what we understood clearly. Okay, fine. But I need to give a conclusion. What is that conclusion here we want to provide there? Observe carefully. Note. As per the application requirements, like online shopping applications, if you want to manage the clients, if you want to manage the client's previous request data, previous request data, we have to use a set of mechanisms explicitly. We have to use a set of mechanisms explicitly called session tracking mechanisms. Right, sir. Now there's a different one. How we are going to manage the session tracking mechanisms, that we are going to understand there clearly. Okay. Right, sir. Now this is somewhat information about like what there, what protocol, how protocol is going to manage. It's a stateless nature. All the points here we understood clearly. Next one, after completion of this, all of you observe carefully. All right, sir. Now we decided that HTTP protocol here we are using. Am I right or not? We decided that HTTP protocol here we are using. Okay, fine. Observe carefully. In web applications, all of you understand it. In web applications, HTTP protocol is able to provide a flexibility for the users to submit different types of requests. Come again, what's the point I said to you? In web applications, HTTP protocol is able to provide a flexibility for the users to submit different types of requests from the client, from client to server. Different types of requests from client to server. Not like one type of request, different types of requests. No. Yes, sir, got it or not? Right, sir. Different types of requests from client to the server due to its HTTP methods. Due to its what there? HTTP methods. Due to its HTTP methods. What are the various HTTP methods are available? That HTTP methods is a terminology inside the protocol. Outside of the protocol, request types. Get my point or not? Request types in outside, inside the protocol, HTTP methods. What are the various HTTP methods are available? What is the need of these HTTP methods? There, what are the various things are existed here that we have to understand clearly. Okay. So this point I will discuss with you tomorrow. It's a bigger one. If I start that HTTP methods, no, they're direct question, straightforward question. What are the differences between get and post, get request and post request, or do get method or do post method, or get request type and get HTTP method and post HTTP method is one of the important interview question. So almost all where we have to understand 7 to 8 number of points there exactly. The points are having some importance there. Definitely that question will be there in our interviews now. That's why we are going to understand that content tomorrow. So tomorrow is a Saturday, right? But still tomorrow we have a session. But on Sunday, I will not take this class there. On Sunday, I will go for some other core Java classes, no? But tomorrow we have session. Tomorrow I'm going to take about what the differences between get and post, and differences between like what there head and get, differences between put and post. So some number of request types are available. All the request types we are going to understand clearly. I'm requesting to all of you next to 10 days of time. Next to 10 days of time. Of course, Sundays are hardly, just leave it, no? At least up to the next weekend, don't miss the classes in servlets. Topics are important. Why? Because these are fundamentals you must. If you know these fundamentals, remaining servlets are very simple. If you're not having awareness on these fundamentals, no, servlets are not going to be easy. I'm sure about it. That's why here next to 10 classes, 10 days of time, no, I'm going to take this introduction classes and some server environment, some kind of diagram, some kind of internal flows there. So everything you must aware. That's why I'm telling to you next to 10 days of time, the classes are mandatory and very important. Without failure, try to attend for it clearly. Okay. Right, sir. That's all for today. I'll meet you on tomorrow. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Uh, guys, the link here, what I'm telling to you, here, this is a classroom notes link, guys. Then some of you are asking to me, this is classroom notes link. Now try to check this link clearly. Omkar, please take the classroom notes link. Yes, I'm showing that to you. Now try to utilize this. Yeah. Tomorrow same class, same timing. Okay. Yeah. Thank you guys. Thanks a lot. We'll meet on tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll check the content here. So okay, fine. Thank you.